We've been looking at how early life exposures influence cardiovascular disease risk in old age, and this has led us to describe what we call the disappointment paradox. We can measure childhood exposures and the metabolic and developmental consequences in great detail, but the difficulty we have is linking these with disease risk in old age. It's seldom practical to follow individuals in large enough numbers from birth to age 70. So what we need are indirect markers of childhood exposure that we can identify amongst older people. We can use such markers to focus our biological research and clinical and laboratory-based studies appropriately. Height is one such marker. Exposure to stress in childhood can also impair the body's response to stress through mechanisms such as expression of hippocampal glucocorticoid receptors. Therefore, shorter stature may signal greater susceptibility to stress. As shorter stature is associated with increased coronary heart disease risk, perhaps stress and greater susceptibility to it explains this relationship. Through collaboration with ESRC's Resilience and Capability Network, we've been testing the hypothesis that taller stature, indicating better control of the stress response, may protect against some stressful exposures that increase the risk of heart disease. One such exposure is financial adversity in old age, as this has been linked to a greater risk of heart disease. We tested this hypothesis among over 116,000 members of the American National Health Interview Survey. We divided them into two groups, those who had an adequate income and those who had a lower income, indicating financial adversity. And what we found amongst those with a high income was exactly what we expected, that those of taller stature had a reduced risk of heart disease. The results for the low income group came as quite a surprise, because what we found was that those of taller stature were actually at greater risk of heart disease rather than the reduced risk that we predicted. We speculated that this paradoxical result represented a form of relative disadvantage, that those who had relatively privileged childhoods were less able to cope with financial adversity and the associated stress in old age. And this increased stress in old age led to the increased risk of coronary heart disease. The looming retirement pension crisis threatens to expose many more old people to financial adversity. Now, over the last 100 years or so, conditions in childhood have been consistently improving, and this has been matched by secular trends in adult stature. People have been becoming taller as a result. Therefore, the improvements in childhood condition may be rendering more people susceptible to the stress associated with the financial adversity in old age. Public health and policy implications are clear if we are to avoid an unexpected epidemic of heart disease amongst older people. Not only must we protect the very young from financial adversity and excessive stress, we must also protect the older population to guarantee successful and healthy aging.